when I was the mentee of Jayson, when you were my mentor in the Sylvia Lane mentorship program, I asked Jayson that question, and Jayson's answer was, when I was an assistant professor, I started working an hour before breakfast, and then I ended with an hour after dinner. And so I thought, okay, and I have followed that. I followed the good advice.
Okay, so here there are two answers. The one is the politically correct, and the other one is the true. So which one do you want to hear? Bob? So the politically correct answer is you really need to find a balance between your personal life and your professional life. That is very important. And to some extent, it's true. You really need to find a balance. The true answer is that I talk for myself, obviously, right? So when I was a PhD student, I was really spending the majority of my time working, reading, working. Obviously, then there is a learning curve, right? I'm also an international student. So the first time I wrote a paper, I was like, wow, this is going to be a disaster, right? So there is a learning curve, and you need to find a way to navigate the system, whatever system you are facing. But then now I realize that I'm much faster. So now I don't work all the time. I also spend time with my family. I have a daughter. I have some sort of balance. And, I am maybe up at the learning curve. At the beginning, I was really at the bottom. So I had to work more than what needed. But yes, I do work quite a lot. I don't know how to quantify the time.
I could add that just one. So I realized after, I think it was during my postdoc, that there had been 2 years where I worked every day, and that was very unhealthy. And I did that because I was so scared to get a job. So I want you to know you are okay. Don't work every day. You will be much more productive if you take breaks. And I now meditate a lot, and it helps.
So Vincenzina gave this answer to a different question, but I think it's the same answer to this one, which is if you're working on things that you really love to do, it's not as stressful. It can be stressful, but you're motivated because you are really interested in what you're doing. So that's hard advice to take, because how do you find things you enjoy doing? I don't know, but I think that's sort of been one of my secrets, is if you really are enjoying what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work or drudgery or anything, because you are like, naturally driven to want to work on the thing that you're interested in. So find it really matters to try to find some topics that you care about and that you find intellectually stimulating, because it won't feel like work. You're trying to find, you're sort of motivating yourself in that way. But the other way, we got a lot of economists in the room. So think about a production function. If paper, you're producing research, production function, how do you get more output? You add more input, and that, that's your time. And so there's a strong correlation between the amount of time you spend and the amount of output that's created. But people often don't like that answer. They want to say, what's your secret to jumping on a new production function? And I don't know that one, other than with experience, you do get things a little bit faster. Those things sort of help you find good collaborators. That allows you to be more productive for the same amount of time you would have earlier. So that's sort of like a productivity enhancer. But in general, I don't find there are like secrets. It's, some combination of time and collaboration, I think, and finding things that you enjoy working on.
It's this thing about when you like something. I now work on 2 projects on meditation. I feel like I just can't help myself, but it's exactly that. I'm like, I want to work less, and then I'm so interested in it that I don't perceive it as work, even though I'm still sitting there typing, because it's like, oh, this is so great. How about we try that? And then it just happens. So, ultimately it's hard work. I feel.
Sorry, David. One last thing there that sort of relates to this combination of like work-life balance. I don't know, I've got my wife and son in the back there, so they can weigh in here. But you talked about our relationship. There's not like the work is like you could say life is your work, but like these are my good friends. Like When I was in Germany, we went and had dinner at Carola's house. My kids dressed up in Halloween costumes and did lanterns walking around when they were like 10 years old. So it's work, but they're your friends and they're part of your life. And when I think about my graduate students I've had over the years, they first start and they're like annoying you all the time with questions. And then you start writing papers together and then you're kind of like colleagues and then become part of your family. Like some of my former students, we call our third children, and that's just, so you can weave these things. It doesn't always work that way, but I'd say that's just been my experience is, the enjoyable parts of your life are kind of wrapped up in your work in ways that it's not seamless. And there are days that, and I should say, I don't work as many hours on research as I used to. I take more time to do things than I didn't because I don't have the stress that I need to get promoted or anything that I used to. And I'm spending time doing more administrative things today. But I think over time, if you work a lot and you find colleagues you like to work with, is what we're doing right now work, or is what we're doing right now sort of part of our, social? It's sort of some weird combination of both, I think.
So I think that's a good point of view, and similar to my own. I would say I fell into being productive. It wasn't necessarily something that I intended. I'm so well, yeah. I find that I tend to be more productive when I open up a research area a new research area for myself. I end up finding, there's one topic that I sort of get interested in, and I start working on this, and very quickly one paper turns into 4 or 5 because I have adjoining ideas, right? And the people I'm working with on this, we start sort of branching out into a bunch of different things. That tends to be much more productive than the single paper at a time approach for me. But starting out, my approach was very different than it is today, of necessity. And what I found is that, I would work on a paper and do everything that I could on a particular paper. And I'm an insomniac, so, I would spend time with my family, but I'd spend all night working on things. And then if I found that I had finished everything I could on a paper and I was waiting on a co-author, or I had submitted a paper and so I didn't have anything I could work on that day, I'd start a new project. And I kept doing this until I had something like about 20 projects going. And I tried to make sure I had a reasonable portfolio. So I had, I was particularly focused on trying to publish in the AJE because that's sort of my home journal in my mind. And so I'd try and keep about 1/3 of the things that I was working on sort of in the realm of things that could be published there, and some other things that maybe were a little lower level or a little more sort of tangential to economics. But when I would complete stuff, right, I would just add more things in so that I was always working on something. If I was doing reviews for a journal, I'm not just doing reviews, I'm doing reviews and I'm brainstorming ideas as I go along because whatever they're doing is interesting enough to get me to read it. And so I need to make use of that time and thinking about what are other things that I could be researching along these lines. So making use of your time and getting excited about your own research, I think is the key. Right.
Maybe another thing I still do is whenever I get a paper published, I go out and I buy something nice for me. So just celebrate too, right? Find a time to celebrate your achievements because those are not those are important. It's your time and you give up to something, right? You make trade-offs. And when you decide to stay home and to work instead of going and drinking and partying with your friends, you are making a choice. But then, there are also rewards. And so try to also enjoy those.
And I often think of this job, it's like, you are like an athlete. Find what helps you. I have a business coach. I've had her for, I think now it's 12 years. We talk on average once a month. And she helps me through situations that are difficult. Like you work in a new project and you don't know the people and you don't know how to communicate. And with whom do you discuss that? It's like, she's fantastic. I mean, she has helped me so much. Like if you work a lot, it's like still like the academic athlete body, you know, so this hurts a lot. So what this not good for good writing, right? So what do you do? What does help you? Like, do you get acupuncture? Do you get a massage? Do you go for a walk? Like how often? Like how much do you have to move your body? We don't do yoga here for no reason, right? But it's maintenance. It's like maintenance, because if you burn out, if you have pain and you can't work anymore because you carried on too long, athletes are very good with that. Like, that's any athletes?
So now every time I publish a paper, then my husband says, where are you going, right? Or what did you buy, right?
And if we want more, we publish more. It's like-